first of all, thank you for coming to join us. This is the second Rooting Cleveland panel discussion that we have put together in an effort to discuss some of the things that happen in the city that we don't talk about publicly, that we have not aired out publicly, and we can't really begin to heal from what has hurt us until we can name it. And we are hopeful to continue to build spaces of strength, survival, and triumph, especially with conversations like these. So, I took some notes, so don't mind me if I look at my phone. Okay. So, none of the content, none of the language, none of the things that you're going to hear here are censored at all. These are all the ideas and the thoughts and the feelings and the things that need to be expressed by the people here. So, if you feel uncomfortable, if you feel you need to take some space, I'm always going to encourage people to take care of themselves, but everybody here on the panel is going to encourage you to remain here if you're feeling challenged. Feeling challenged, you're feeling unsafe, feeling triggered are two different things. So if you feel challenged, if you feel like, I don't think like this, stay, listen, because, something here has made you feel away. And it's you owe it to yourself to explore that. What else we got here? Yeah. Don't run, stay with us. We got so much to talk about. But before we can really get into a space where we are ready to kind of have these discussions and start to go over all of these things, we thought that it was important for us to come together and kind of ground ourselves. And Lynette is going to help us go ahead and get grounded today, y'all.
I am. I'm going to try. So it's going to just be just a minute or two of just breathing and just following me. If you're one that cannot visualize, it's okay. I'm going to ask you to visualize some things, but your intention is enough. You don't have to perfectly visualize. You don't have to force anything. So I just encourage everyone to go ahead and close their eyes and just bring your attention to your breath. And begin to deepen your breath all the way into your belly, allowing your belly to expand like a balloon. And as you breathe, it doesn't matter if you have thoughts coming and going. Don't try to stop them, just be with your breath. Now bring your attention to the base of your spine. Just breathing with your attention there. Just breathing deeply in through your nose and out through your mouth. Now bring your attention to your heart. And I want you to visualize your heart like a flower. And just allow your heart to open. Let it bloom open. Your heart knows. And in this space, we're going to listen and be open with our heart. Let the mind take a back seat. Let it come along, but be with your heart. It is our intention that we all learn something today, that we listen, and that if something needs to be unpacked later, that's okay. Just be here. Just observe and watch and even notice your own reactions. And maybe there's something that you take away from today. Maybe there's something that you do or not do going forward. So it is our intention that we all here, we gather, and that our energy, our collective energy, serves our highest and greatest good. So just take a final few deep breaths. Bring your attention to the bottoms of your feet, or the base of your spine, and just be in your body. And when you're ready, open your eyes, feeling centered, grounded. Let's go.
Come on. Woo, come on.
All right.
I mean, no, that's exactly it. That's the exact response you give. But now we are ready to get into this conversation. Y'all feeling good? Y'all feeling great? I'm feeling fantastic.
Feeling great, feeling good. How are you?
Yes. I Okay. So this question is obviously open to anyone, whoever wants to jump in first. But what does acknowledging the past look like for you? How does it inform your day-to-day and your future plan?
Okay, I'll go. All right, I'm going. All right. So my contribution to this evening's talk is not from a systemic point of view. This is from a personal, introspective point of view. So don't put comments in and say, well, what about the big system? I don't know. I'm not the systems girl, okay? But the work that I do every day at Willow Cove as a therapist and a coach, I teach people how to feel better or how to feel good about whatever it is they've decided to do or not to do. So my answer to that, the first one was, what does it look like for me?
Yes.
I had to do my own damn shadow work. I had to do my own mirror therapy, and I do it every day I wake up. When you look in that mirror, I hope everybody has, oh, y'all got mirrors? Oh, we got mirrors. When you look in the mirror, ask yourself, what can I do to make this day better? What can I do? I mean, it's the little things. We say this all the time. It's the little things that matter. It's the little things that count, but we really aren't living that. It really is the little things. Are you speaking to the person that you pass on the sidewalk who's walking their dog? Which is the same energy that shows up in traumatic situations. People aren't speaking. People aren't building relationships. People aren't even acknowledging your presence when you cross them in the grocery store, at the gas station. Look me in my eye. So that's where I start. I look myself in the eye. What can I do to make this day better? What can I do to feel better? That's another thing too. We wake up bitching and moaning about the day. Oh, I gotta go. Oh, another day at work. Oh, I wish it was Friday. Stop all that. There is gratitude in everything. There's gratitude in your fatigue. There is gratitude in your unwanting. There's gratitude in your discontent. And if you can find that little nugget, it makes a world of difference. It's a game changer for the day, I think. So that's how it shapes my day to day, because I have to be very intentional, and it does take practice. I wasn't born doing this. Probably just started doing it just a few years ago, and every day it takes concerted effort, and I have to be very intentional about it. So that's my offer for that. Who wants next?
I'll go next. Yeah. The question was, how do I run that back?
No problem. It was like a three-part. I do this all the time. All my poems are like lines of three, and they say got lines of three. So what does acknowledging the past look like for you?
Okay.
How does it inform your day-to-day and your future plan?
Oh, acknowledging the past on the day-to-day looks like waking up with myself. And you know what? You're right. Actually looking at yourself in the mirror, whether it's brushing your teeth or whatever. But my thing is, I always try to acknowledge little Stephanie. Like, hey, we made it. We made it this far. Because my past is very informed by my inner child. So starting the day with like acknowledging that we're here, we're doing this. Remember, this is what we asked for in our bedroom when we were like 10. So acknowledging that past, and also the work that I do as a writer is very like informed by my past. So acknowledging it, making it a part of my story, but also not letting it rule my decisions or where I see myself going in the future. Trying to see the future as, because it is a blank slate or a void. But, trying to imagine all of the wonderful things I could input into that space. Based off of, I think it's like a painting. So like my past has created my palette of colors, and now with those I get to paint the future.
Wow.
Yeah.
Spoken as a true writer.
Yes, poet. Come on.
She's a poet. Yeah. For me, one of the biggest things for me has been forgiveness work. Because I've let myself down, I've given my power away, I've hated myself, So there's been a lot of just forgiving myself for where I was, and trying to take what I've been through and move forward with compassion for me, for other people. And you know, I judge, we all judge, but to me it's helped me to like just meet people where they are, and to know that we've all had some things that we've had to deal with, and a lot of times we don't even know. So for me, it's forgiveness work, and also, you know, every morning, mostly before I get out of bed, I try to do this technique taught by Montauk Chia, and it's just you're smiling. So it's teaching my body to be in a new state, because I was in depression for so long. So I'm teaching my body, it's like creating new chemicals in my body by just smiling and breathing before I hit the floor. So it's a practice.
I heard the question a little different, so I might answer it a little different. Acknowledging the past for me looks like learning how to make my mama's cornbread and stuffing or dressing, as we call it down my way, and how to make my grandmama's sweet potato pie. And I think in the present that shows up for me by behaving like I was raised right, you know, and just acting right because I know better, you know. And I think in the future, you know, it requires me to acknowledge every day. So I guess in the present and in the future that I have the opportunity to do things every day that my ancestors and my elders and even some of the people in my present could never have imagined and never have dreamed of. So I can't be wasteful with those sorts of opportunities. You know, I have to, I think to y'all's point, it's like just live with purpose in a way that gives reverence and gives honor to the past, because people made a lot of sacrifices for me to be here. And so, you know, I gotta learn how to make their stuff right. So if I show up at the barbecue, you know what I'm saying, they ain't like, is that Gladys's daughter? That's not good. But yeah, you know, I think it's just like knowing where I came from and knowing that I was raised right, so I could do something in the world that has some meaning.
Can I bother you on that? Well,
Yes,
piggyback on that. So I'm gonna piggyback on that in saying that part of my morning mirror therapy is enlisting the ancestors to tell me what to do for the day, literally. You know, I call on my Gigi, I call on my Aunt Julia, I call on Harriet Tubman. I mean, I'm calling, and oftentimes in the room when I'm doing work with guests, I hear a lot. Well, I don't know what to do. Well, I don't know. Well, I don't know. Well, I don't know. I don't. Yes, you do know. Ask for the help. What are you showing me? What are you telling me? What is there for me to get out of this day? And even in those moments when you really are stuck, like, oh, shoot, what? Ask for help. It only takes 2 seconds. Help. And I know it wasn't even 2, was it? Help. Help. And it will come. And that little voice that you hear that gives that answer, that's the God of your understanding. That's spirit. That's energy. Whatever you want to call it. Whatever you want to call it. That is that thing that's governing your presence on this planet, telling you what to do. Give yourself permission to listen to it. That's all I got.
I'm sorry. The God of your understanding.
Well, in our yeah.
Wait, no, you got more.
Okay.
You got more.
So part of my trauma is in religion. Part of my trauma is with religion. I was raised in 2 very rigid ones. I won't call them, but you know, there are only a few, so you could probably figure. But anywho, I get into, or did get into so many arguments, discussions, punishments, because I almost got expelled from Catholic school because I wouldn't genuflect, because I wouldn't go to confession. And it was at that point, I might have been, I don't know, 7, 8. I said, well, hey, in my family, in my house, I could go to my mother or my father. And that's what y'all say about religion, right? Go to the Father. So why do I need an intercessor? I can go to the God of my understanding myself. Right? I mean, doesn't that make sense?
Yeah.
And so I've talked to so many people throughout the day. I've been doing this work for about 12 years, which isn't very long, but I've met a lot of people who share their most intimate details of their lives, and they get hung up on the God thing. Well, I'm atheist, or I'm Christian. Well, what about Jesus Christ? Well, shouldn't we pray about it? I'm not going to tell you the answer to that. Like you were sharing with Eric earlier, how does it make you feel? Whatever you want to call him, her, or it. Because I believe that no human had anything to do with any of this out here. No human that I know, or know about, or know of, or have read about. So whatever you want to call him, her, or it, I'm just going to say it's the God of your understanding. So however you say it, however you reach it, however you become in tune with it, however you build a relationship with it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It belongs to you, and you can own him, her, or it, whatever you call it.
Yes.
I say.
Yes. And in continuing to, I guess, to go forward with that energy, the next question that we have is, when do we begin to live rather than survive? And for a little more clarity on that, I guess, so often it feels like we are nothing without our trauma, right? It feels like your importance is less if you're not suffering in some way, if you're not making it through something, if you're not surviving through something. And I think the really cool thing that I'm starting to notice now is that people are getting into a space where they want to live. They want to thrive. They don't just want to survive and make it through. So that's the intent behind asking that question. When do we begin to live rather than survive? And whoever wants to start, if you want to take a moment, feel free.
For me, many of us are in the business of advancement, of evolution, and I think that we have to be in balance with always wanting to achieve something more or be something better. And so it's like, how do we aspire? How do we have dreams? How do we have goals? How do we be accountable and look at those places in our life that we want to shift, but then how can we just be where we are? How can we just be like, this is me right now, and I'm gonna have an honest look at myself, and I'm gonna be accountable, but I cannot continue to be in shame, because unfortunately, that's a program in religion. Is that you're less than, that you are born in sin. I would disagree. We're born in greatness. We're born in the image of our Creator. And so if God is in everything, and again, we can use any word, then God is in everything. And so we don't have to try to escape any one place. So again, I think it's a matter of harming your balance.
No, go ahead.
I thought about this question a lot because it's a tough question for me because we are living. We are actually living, right? And I think that a lot of the kind of trauma, and like trauma is real, right? And struggle is real, and all these things. But I don't think that we have to be defined by those things. Nor do I think we are defined by those things, actually. I think that a lot of that narrative is narrative that is projected on us, right? Not one that we've created. Because, I think that Black and Indigenous folks and folks of color, we have a very beautiful story. Like, we live very beautiful lives, right? We love hard. I think we live well, right? And I think that there are some standards that are sort of put on us through religion and through media and through all of these things that are just like not ours to own. Now, we have some work to do to more actively reject those things, to more actively ignore those things, right? But I grew up in a very, very loving environment, and I continue to find myself surrounded by like beautiful, loving people every day. And I think that like y'all's reflections about like mirror work and like connecting with yourself, like it is really a blessing to like just like that exercise. Like it's something that feels so so both like calming and grounding to me to be like next to a person and just feel as breathing. Like we are here, we are alive actually, you know?
We're in the building.
We are in the building. We are in the universe. We are here, you know? And even for those of us that are no longer here, they are here too, you know? Like I walk in the park every day and I go past a flower that I can't ask my mom what it is because she done told me so many times. Like, I don't know the name of it, you know? But every time I smell this flower, I feel my grandmother. Like actually, you know, it's like she's like walking right along with me, you know? So I think that this work that folks are talking about like being grounded and like just like being in ourselves just reminds us every day. And to your point, at any moment in the day, you can remind yourself that like we're alive, we're here, and now I think there's a different question about, you know, socio-politically, are we thriving? Is like a different matter, you know. But I do think that we should spend some more time rejecting, like very actively, calmly, you know, because that's the other thing. Like we can get caught up in the back and forth about what we is and what we ain't. And that's not our bag. That's somebody else's problem, I think, right?
Yes.
But we could do that, you know, more actively to just like live in our truth. And our truth is beautiful and it's loving and lovely. You agree?
Can I have a backup question, Ruth? What is it, I guess, what does it look like to more actively reject that? Is it just as simple as being like, but that's not me? Like acknowledging that within yourself, I guess. If you could speak a little more to that, because that was really interesting.
I mean, I think, yeah, definitely acknowledging it within yourself, but collectively, I think Black and brown folks and indigenous folks have to, like, we have to do more of that collectively and actively, right? And so I think that it looks like our conversations look different. You know, in 2020, there was so much trauma that so many of us were experiencing. You know, I personally experienced so much death and like suffering. I am an extreme extrovert, so being in the house for a year was wildly difficult for me. But I needed some time to be alone, right? And I had to put a different frame on the year towards the end of the year. Like this was some time for you to do some work with you, because as an extrovert, you know, you're always looking for like, well, how you feel, Eric?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You feel good? Well, then I feel great. You know what I mean? But I needed some just like a long time. So I think that that year made me really determined that I just have to put my energy in elsewhere. Right? So I do racial equity work, right? Like whatever that means to whomever, right? And I realized that there were so many things happening in my own community, like death and suffering, and I was spending so much time focused on white folks, right? Building their awareness, making them feel safe, making them feel comfortable, to the point like I didn't know what was going on in my own family, in my own community. Right? Like there were people in my immediate family suffering in ways I had no idea, because I don't have any time for that. Because I'm so busy trying to fight the fight over here. Right? Like so like I'm just missing some things that are very, very important. And so for me that has looked like reconnecting with some folks and like sharing some of the things that I have learned and continuing to learn from other people in spaces that are immediately proximate or adjacent to me, that are intimate, as opposed to like, what's the moonshot thing I'm gonna do to save the world or convince them that this isn't the thing. You know, it's like, just gotta kind of let that go. So letting go is I think another part of that we have to kind of let some stuff go that ain't ours, because it ain't ours, you know, ultimately. But don't have me going out.
Almost wanna hop in. Yeah.
Doesn't move on to me.
I'll just jump off of that. I think, to your point, we are living. And so, you know, this like survival narrative that we all, and I can only speak to like, you know, being a Puerto Rican woman and that narrative, and y'all are speaking to the Black experience as well. And I just feel like all of the stories that are getting pumped out into the world are these narratives of like survival, and look how terrible things were and are and continue to be. And there does need to be more just joy and like capturing that, because it is happening in real time. I know I'm experiencing it on the day-to-day and like seeing the people in my community or the people that I love. And I also think that we need to like come in and like hold that more, our communities together. So like, you know, communities of color are each fighting their own separate battles. Like, you know, they're each being targeted in their own ways. And I love what I've seen this year is like everybody kind of being like, you know what, we are stronger together. And like doing a little bit more mutual aid work and things like that, and stepping up in ways that they can, but also stepping back when they have to. Because like in the, you know, the fight that you're talking about, and that I think we all are kind of talking about, everybody plays a part. So somebody's got to be at home making the sandwiches to feed the people on the front lines. Somebody got to be at home watching the babies.
Yep.
Somebody got to be, you know, doing the graphic design. Somebody has to be creating the soundtrack. Somebody has to be writing the story down. Somebody has to be taking the photographs, making sure the sound works. You know, asking the right questions. Like everybody plays a part. And so I think when we sort of understand that and can kind of let go of that need to like exhaust ourselves and almost like kill ourselves for this fight, because that's exactly what they want, and they being, we know what they are. That's exactly what they want. They want to see us World War Z style trampling over each other, trying to get what's ours,
Listen.
and taking our, and them sitting at the top, ha ha ha, with their scotch. Like when we realize that, like, no, this is all of us. So, you know, to the Latinx, especially Puerto Rican community, cut the shit with the anti-blackness. Like, Black liberation is the only way that we're all going to like make it and live, and not just survive and be like, I got it here. You know, like we can't, because that's exactly what they want. They keep pumping out these post-apocalyptic movies and narratives, like they're like gearing us up or playing into our fears, and like, you know, I'm gonna watch it because but I also like reject that that's going to be a reality for us. So that's how. So
Okay. So I'm gonna agree to all three and won't say any more on that note because it was well said by them. I'll just add a little technical piece to it and think that again in the work I do, I think there are three elements elements, not layers. There's a difference, you understand in a minute. Three elements to this life. There is surviving, there's striving, and then there's thriving, right? And I think that because they aren't layers that go on top of each other, it's not like one, you pass one bar, then you get to the next level. It's not that. These are bubbles that are connected. And you, on a daily basis even, we move between those bubbles. We get to create our own narrative. And if you hang on to the narrative that says, that's downtrodden, oh, I wish I could, I can't, I couldn't, I shouldn't, I won't. Can we lose the contractions, people? I mean, you know, because where focus goes, energy flows. We've heard that before, right? So if you're focusing on what you can't do, what you won't do, what you should have done, what I could have done, well, the universe or the God of your understanding is going to keep giving you evidence of that thing, that you can't do it, that you won't do it, that you shouldn't do it, that you should have done it. But if you change your language just a little and say something like, I would really love to do X, Y, and Z. Or I don't understand what's happening, but I'm going to show up for my role. What can I do? Or, you know, I don't have the money for it right now, but I bet if I looked at my budget and looked at all the money I spend getting my hair done, my nails did, eating out, blah, 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 blah. You have the money to afford the tuition package? You do. And we'll get to, I'll talk more about that when we get to the last question about resources. I think we have the resources. I think folks are lazy and just need to discover them. But that's, I'll wait till then. I'll wait.
she did her homework.
But I will wait. Actually, since we have a little additional time looking at things, there was one question on here that kind of came before the tools and resources that I think might be pretty interesting to consider. And I think, so I think this is the way I want to word it. If these things that we've developed now, like as adults, the capacity to like live now and to you know manifest joy and to speak to the universe directly, like of all of those sort of like elements or things that you've learned about yourself or learned how to do. It's such a cliche question, but I really like asking because it gets us to think about it. But what if you could pass on any of those habits or pass those habits back to like a younger you, like? If you could talk to yourself, however long ago, 5 years, 10 years, whenever you feel like you started to become this person you are now, where you're able to speak to the universe and call things out and call joy to yourself, I get. What would you kind of give back to your past self if you could? If that question makes sense to you all. Oh, here you go.
I guess I would say there's a reason for all, like everything you feel or every, I guess, struggle you run into or the anxiety or whatever it may be, whatever you're facing or however your trauma shows up for you, you know, depression, whatever it may be. All of it has a root cause. And it's not just in your mind and it's not just, you know, and like what the reasons why you may be upset or feeling like things in your life are maybe not clicking is because you're just not noticing that these are all reflections of something from the past, like the past. So I guess what I would have said would have just been like, there's a reason for this, and it's not just like you making bad decisions or you not being smart enough to know better. And once you understand that reason, it's easier for you to like see through the illusion of what this is and be able to make the decision to like, you know, walk away from it or change directions or whatever it may be. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I get it.
Okay, I have to say
Yeah.
on it. So for me, I would tell, and I'm not sure if this is actually the question, but this is my answer.
Yeah, no.
I would tell my younger self, or something that I would lend to young people today. A dear friend of mine she introduced these two words to me, and I think they belong to her grandmother, right? So here we go, passing things down. And those two words are stick-to-itiveness and give a damn ability.
Okay.
Right? So for me, when I look back on what I have done or not done, or how I could have been different at this moment in time or whatever, the thing for me, I wouldn't even call it regret, that's too strong a word. My only reflection is that if I had just stuck to some things, I didn't learn that. I was always chasing the next best thing, the next best thing, the next bigger thing, the next bigger thing, and listening to the other people who hadn't done it. But that's another thing too, y'all. Stop listening to people who haven't done things well. Because when we say, well, I don't know how to do that, and people just generally say, well, ask somebody. Just ask. Well, I'm going to add a little bit to the end of that. Ask somebody who has done it well, because that makes a big difference. Because I spent my whole life listening to people who didn't know. They were well-intentioned, but they didn't know. And so I was hopping around, you know, from those bubbles we just talked about in the last question, hopping around. If I had just stuck to a thing, I might be some world-renowned fashion designer, or some, you know, running the Guggenheim, or with my own brown girls paint thing or something. I don't know, but you see, we gotta, and I think that's what our generation right now misses, because we live in a world that is instantaneous, and everything is just so quick, grab and go. Everything is under a grab and go kind of model. Sit a while. Look, check out the lettuce in the salad pack. See what's all in there. I mean, no, that's a silly example, but for real, don't wait till you just grab and go and you get home and the salad's brown on the bottom. You're like, well, if you had just taken the extra 2 seconds, let me see. Okay, that's a good one. You know, it's a silly example, but I think you get my point. Yeah. So stick-to-itiveness and give a damn ability.
They got their mic over
They
there.
got their mics.
They should have their mics.
For me, it's lack of self-trust or lack of self-trust. I doubted myself a lot, you know. So I was always the kind of person that had like strong feelings about things. I was sensitive. I was intuitive without knowing what that really meant. And so what would happen is I had this subconscious or this internal program that I was supposed to be perfect. And so anytime I got off the path, I just was beating myself up so badly instead of understanding now that it's an experience. So I would have told my younger self, listen, you're going to do things well. You're going to fail. You're going to embarrass yourself. You're going to give away your power. Like, these are all things that are just part of it. So again, it doesn't mean that we don't want to be accountable. It doesn't mean that we don't want to try to improve. But listen, just be easy. You know what I mean? Just be easy. Have the experience. You're going to get it wrong. You know, you're going to get it wrong. So just for me, just keep trusting yourself, younger Lynette. You know what I mean? Just allow the experience to mold you. Don't fight it. Be accountable, but don't be in shame. Because for me and many of the clients and people that I see, we have this recorder that plays that speaks so terribly to ourselves, where we would never speak like that to anyone else on the external, but the internal mind or that internal voice is it's relentless, it's terrible, it's mean-spirited, and I would sometimes think, like, where is this coming from? So I would say be easy, trust yourself, and just keep learning.
And it's not your voice. The ugliness is not your voice.
Can I add something?
Yes.
Sorry. Because this ties back to like we're talking about what we inherit generationally or generational inheritance. So feeling like doubt or that you're not good enough or that you needed somebody else to like come along and tell you what to do. Does that almost feel like also like a cultural thing? Because like you think about, where our families came, well, especially Lynette and I, and like Eric as well. And like, just all of our relationships with the country that we live in and how it has made us feel, those very things. And like even, the land that we come from, Puerto Rico, feeling like it could never be enough on its own. It needs, somebody to tell it what to do, to kind of control some things in its life. And I do the work that I've been doing through like writing my book, and the work in general, is like that all of those reasons are not really like mine. Like that's not a real thing. That's something that's been just like conditioned and passed down to me. And like, Evelyn was saying earlier, I don't have to own that. So I think I would have told younger Stephanie, learn your history. Learn your history of not only your family and the generations that came before you, but learn the history of the place you came from. And that's also, I understand, a very, very privileged thing to say, because I am able to connect the dots, and some people don't have that. Connect the dots as far back as you can. Follow your intuition, follow your heart, wherever that sort of leads you. But there's definitely a reason, like why you are feeling this way, and there's root causes, and when you get to those root causes, you will understand that it is nothing to do with who you are or the skills or talent that you inhabit.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Okay,
All right.
I'm not gonna lie, I was struggling with this one too, and I shouldn't have, because I've seen the questions, but I think what I was struggling with is like, for me, it's a little bit of what my younger self needs to say to my current self.
Ooh, okay.
As opposed to, because my younger self was lit. I mean, really, I don't mean to be, but
Please do.
I mean, my younger self had none of that. No, I wasn't. The older I've gotten, the more these things have become issues for me as a person, right? Like, when you talk about learning your history, I had a mama and daddy that had me in everything. You hear me? We were, I like, on this eve of Juneteenth, I've been, talking to people that are like, I just got hit to Juneteenth last year, and I'm like, I don't ever remember not celebrating Juneteenth in my life. We've always celebrated Juneteenth in our family. And, I think because I'm a dark Black woman, my mom's always been very like, you're amazing. You're amazing, you're amazing, you're amazing. You can do anything that you want to do, And so I felt that way, walking through life every day. It was like, all white school, cheerleading program, I'm in there. We got the money or not, but, so now it's when I've started to experience these like, how's it gonna land, and what is it gonna be, and am I good enough, and like, what about these people? Now, people may not believe that, but I'm kind of like the Sasha Fierce, y'all ever heard Beyonce talk about her Sasha?
Yes.
That you're like, when I gotta turn it on, I'm on, but you close the door, you like collapse to the floor. I never had that as a child. It was like a kind of run free. I was very connected to my family and to the community and to friends. And as an adult, it's changed to where, I question like, why are you so extroverted? Why don't you just, take less space and those sorts of things. And so that's some of the work that I have had to do personally, right? That it's like, man, like in space, sometimes I feel like I'm taking so much space. But that's a new thing for me, that was not what it was for a long time. Now, I'm working on that, but I think to answer your question and why I was kind of struggling with it was because like young Evelyn need to holler at older Evelyn.
So what does young Evelyn need to tell current Evelyn?
I think just like, do you, baby, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
You are here, you are alive, you go, right? And I think that the big difference is, I never even thought about those things as a child. Right? It was just like whatever the thing was, you just went. And I mean that some of that is youth. Yeah. Now, I think in our practice at Third Space, we talk a lot about the radical imagination, right? And Freedom Dreams by Robert D.G. Kelly was talking about the radical imagination. And that was the other thing that as a child, and I think us as children, we have, right? It's like we can imagine, we can dream, we can do these things. We are uninhibited by the stuff that we know. Right, and so when we talk about freedom or liberation or all of these things, like whatever the thing is for the day or whatever, it's hard. Like in our work we have to we come up with plans for people, and as an adult I'm like, well, let me tell you why the plan ain't gonna work. Let me tell you about this person or these things and these barriers. Right, it gets back to the struggle story. Yeah. And that's that comes through experience. Right, we've experienced some things that say, ooh, you do it that way, and but we are trying really hard in our own practice to get back to a childlike state. And like a childlike mind that isn't inhibited by like we cut off our ability to do things because to your point, we talk about what we can't do. And what that we lead with that. Yes. Right? Yeah. And it doesn't allow us an opportunity to just like go and try and like be free. And so I think that younger Evelyn is telling grown up Evelyn to like, you got to put some of that to the side. Like you've got to just like get out there and try some things and do some things and know it all ain't gonna go well and it ain't gonna be perfect. I don't know who this perfectionist person is because this was not you in the past, so I think that it's a bit for me of like returning to some of those things.
And to do that unapologetically.
Unapologetic?
That return to things unapologetically.
Yeah.
Because people will shame you on that too. Well, why are you doing that? Well, what makes you do? Well, why are you gonna waste your time? Well, I don't know. You got all that education. You gonna do what?
Yes, that's it.
Stop.
That's how it shows up.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
Woo.
I'm just soaking it all in because a lot of this is stuff that I need to hear right now, and I didn't know that I needed to hear right now. So I'm very appreciative. So last question. What are some tools, resources, or supports, whichever one of those you want to speak to, that our communities need in order to process and heal? Loaded question, I know. Attack it from any angle. Start at
Pick it apart.
Please feel free.
I have an answer.
Go for
and
it.
I didn't think about this before, but you asked the question now, and the first thing that popped into my mind, and I was like, ooh, yeah, that's exactly what it is we need support, especially in our two communities, because we know this is a thing, is support for young mothers. There is not enough. There is Birthing Beautiful Communities here in Glenville, which shout out them, they do amazing work. But there's not enough. Why isn't every hospital strapped with like doulas on, or like, midwives? Why aren't young mothers given those options? Why is all of the literature about motherhood, all the books about baby featuring, you know, couples that are obviously, for one, like heterosexual, affluent, educated, none of the resources, literature, anything, media, programming geared towards motherhood is geared towards, sorry to use that word twice, young mothers. And I was a young mother myself, and I definitely know that I felt ostracized from the community of motherhood. Like, I felt like I had to go above and beyond. I was trying to do what these suburban moms were doing. I was at every field trip. I was doing cookies for every party and just like trying to combat the stereotype of like the young Puerto Rican mom who's on welfare, who, you know. And so I realized that sometimes I may have missed those moments of joy or being present in motherhood and experiencing it at such a young age, which was a beautiful thing. My kids actually tell me now, they're like, we're glad you were young when it happened. Because you don't know no better. But okay, but I'll take it. But seriously, and we think about, you know, the first thing that everybody wants to come down on our communities for is the mothers, or the familial structure, or parenthood, or fathers. And where are the resources to help young families, especially who need that extra bit of resource? But who can do it instead of being like, oh, you're gonna do that, you're gonna ruin your life. Ooh, are you gonna keep it? You know, and all of these options, as opposed to, this is beautiful, you know, you're bringing a new life into our community. Let's surround it. Let's, you know, what a lot of the revolutionary groups of the past from our communities have done was really taken on that role of community. Somebody's having a baby, we're all happy. You know, and I was very fortunate to find community in that way through, you know, my baby's father's family and my own community, but I've seen how it doesn't happen, and I know that I was very lucky, and I shouldn't feel like I was very lucky. It should be available, and we should be wrapping our arms around these families so that they can not just survive, but thrive. And these children can thrive. I think we talk about generational inheritance. We get so focused on, oh, what happened in the past? What happened in the past to us? And it's like we're losing sight of, like, fuck all of that.
Yeah, but no, it's true.
But like, what does the future look like? Again, imagining it. And the only way that I really see it thriving and you know, this sort of like utopic thing we all have in our head is when we start with like the foundational stuff with just families, and that's just not like heterosexual or cishet couples, like what the family structure can be, because we have kids who are not necessarily with their, you know, biological parents, we're living with grandparents and this, that. We, again, need to be wrapping, especially that grandma or, you know, is raising her grandkids, like people need to be over there too. So generationally, we just, the resources for community, I think, at the end of the day, and like the familial structure and expanding our knowledge of what the familial structure is and can be. Yes.
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 Yeah, well said.
I encourage people in terms of a tool is to feel. So many of us want to hit the eject button when we're going through something. We want to bypass, we want to get to the other side, but trauma is unprocessed emotions. It's something left. So sometimes it could be sitting in nature and you're sitting, you're on the ground, right? And you're just connecting with nature, you're connecting with the earth, and you're crying. You know, you're in the shower, let it go. You know, you're feeling some kind of way, you broke up with the love of your life, lay in bed, hold your heart, nurture yourself. So these are things that sometimes we need somebody else to support us, right? And that's important, but sometimes we're just by ourselves, and we don't want to have to rush through because we can't rush through. And we know that healing is in cycles. So we process something and then we move forward and we're like, oh, we're good. And then here it is again. We are on the path of mastery. Many of us here, right here in this room, I bet money, we are doing the work of our ancestors. We are the ancestors' return. We are here to course correct, and we have to bring that power with us. And part of doing that is just being, and just, healing is messy, healing is cyclical, healing isn't logical, you shouldn't be over it. You don't have to compare to no one else. This is your story. So for me, people that come to me and pay me to offer a technique, and I'm there for them, right? Sometimes they're just crying. That's it. And they just have that release because somehow they think they should be stronger or they should be beyond where they are. So I feel like as a community, we are, how they say, like, you're only as strong as your weakest link. So yes, it's about unity, yes, it's about community, but remember yourself. A lot of times we'll offer some words to someone else, but we're terrible to ourselves. So this is just about how can we take real good care of ourselves and just be where you are and just be compassionate. And another part of my work is the inner child. Remember there's a small part of you. And if you remember that that aspect of you is present, you'll be less likely to speak negatively towards yourself. Because if let's say there's a small child and they fall and stumble, you're not going to talk to them terribly like, what, get up, you know what I mean? You're going to be like, it's okay, baby, get up, it's okay. So it's almost like, how can we treat ourselves as our inner child? And just keep that in the back of your mind as you're moving through, because it's real out here. It is real out here. So I just wish that we had more compassion to ourselves.
I'll go fast because I know you're gonna come with the heat on this one. Get on my favorite. I don't have to in and out. Again, I heard the question a little differently. I think resources, supports, tools. I think as especially Black and Brown, Indigenous folks, we need to stop having to worry about our basic needs. You know, I think so much of our brain space is taken up with like, and that's the survive and thrive question, right? Like, you can't thrive when you're worried about like clean water, you know, or air, or
Live food.
good, you know, decent food, you know. And I think we are, as a people, our bodies and our maybe souls have weathered so much from like just having to be in this like, I just get some clean water, you know, and to like can clean up the air a little bit, and but the irony in it for me is that like, while it is so much worse in our communities, often air, water, all these things, like it's not good anywhere, because we know the earth, for example, like, we know we just can't do this much longer, right? But we know that those challenges are exacerbated in Black and Brown Indigenous communities. So that's what I think, right? And it's hard to even think of those things as supports or resources. It's just like those are human rights.
Exactly.
Having like good schools are just, that's a human right. Certainly in a country like ours that claims the things that it claims, you know? So I think that we could, now I do think that we haven't been exposed to some of the things that like we do have in every community, because in every community you can find a floor or a ground or a grass or some dirt and get yourself centered. Right? But back to what you shared with us earlier, you know, some of us were dissuaded from doing a lot of those things because we were supposed to take it to the altar, we were supposed to take it to, you know, like we had to be in this repentant, punitive state of being all the time, right? For stuff that like kind of doesn't allow you to like get to healing. And that's been my trauma with religion, that it's like, but where the healing part at? You know what I'm saying? I know where the study, and I know where, and that's no shade to religion, right? That's a journey that I personally am still on, but I do think that we have some stuff in our community we should probably start to take advantage of more, right? Like, but we have to let some other things go to make space for some of those things. But I think overall, like I just wish and hope for us as peoples that that we can assume the agency necessary to like provide the things that we need in our community, because we've waited on Superman for long enough. Yeah. Stop coming.
Can't wait till y'all get done.
Okay, I agree wholeheartedly with everything.
Yeah, that's right.
What? All right, I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. Ready? Okay, all we're accelerating. But seriously, I agree with everything that the other panelists have said, and probably anything that is being written and published around this topic. But remember, at the top of the hour, I said, I'm coming from a frame of reference of introspection, right? So I'm only talking to the individual right now. I'm not talking about the system. That's much too big for me. That's too big, it's too big, I'm too small, somebody else can do that. However, comma, my grandmother used to say that. She used to put the comma in there too. She would say, however, comma, I would say, folks, I'm feeling the resistance already. So, okay, let me hold my heart. Folks, stop being lazy about your own healing. Stop fighting for your limitations. Oh, I can't do that because, well, girl, if I could do that, then I would do it. Well, I don't know how. There's a thing called Google that y'all got right now.
It's free.
It's free, and it will tell you almost everything you want to know. Now, do you have to sort through it? Yes. This is the lazy part I'm talking about. Yep, you got to sort through it. Do you have to check in with somebody about, did you interpret the information right? Yes. Do you need to ask more than one person? Yes. We get tired, or we get frustrated, or we think we don't have enough time. I don't have time for all that. Okay, well then stay stupid. I don't know any other way to say that. There is more than enough information on pages, in books, in oral stories, in your oral tradition. Your grandmother, your aunt, your neighbor across the street, your next door neighbor. Somebody has the answer. Ask the question. What I'm finding oftentimes in the work that I do, folks aren't talking to each other. They just, for whatever reason, the things that we've already talked about, this indoctrination that we can't, it's so hard, we don't have, so you just assume that, you own it. Can you give it back, return to sender, return to sender, and pick up a book. Google a question. Ask a neighbor. Hell, ask a stranger. I do that all the time. Somebody is doing something. If I give you an example, there was a woman that was doing a cooking demo in a little cafe. And the folks were sitting around, oh, this is so good, it's so good. What's in it? What's in it? Nobody had the answer. Can we go ask the chef? Just get your ass and go ask her. What is in this? What's in this? You know? So I know this sounds real like elementary and juvenile, but people are not doing it. And when you start with yourself and you are saying, well, how can I have this thing, or how can I get that thing? You can't just sit and wait for the answer, because it's not going to fall out the sky. It's not going to be delivered in the mail in a package. You have to seek it. And seeking is a process too. And it might take some time. Sometimes you get a quick answer and it's the right answer. And sometimes, most times, you don't. And that goes back to that give a damn ability and stick-to-itiveness I was talking about earlier. Ooh.
Mic drop.
Oh, wow.
No.
That, wow. And we're already reaching this 7 o'clock time, y'all. Do we have any, like, is there anything else, like, throughout the midst of the conversation, or like while someone else was talking, that you like wanted to add to the conversation? Anything like you feel like you needed the opportunity to say?
Does anybody have any questions?
If anybody has any questions in there, I don't see any chat stuff, so yeah. Does anyone have anything that they want to add, anything that they want to leave the people with, anything that they want to leave the space with?
I just want to add on to that, in that we generally won't know every step of the way.
Right.
Because sometimes it feels unsafe, right? We're like, okay, I want to know how to get to here, and then I want that step, and then tell me how I'm going to get there. The universe, God, however you want to look at it, will not provide you any information that isn't relevant that you're not ready for. So when you ask, it's just, okay, ask, here's where you are. And what I've learned is if you feel stuck, look around and the answer is around you. You cannot advance in the video game. You gotta conquer where you are. So when you ask, it's gonna come to you through someone, through inspiration, through your imagination, however you wanna look at it. But just take it a step at a time. Because I know my son always wants to know everything. And sometimes he gets stuck because he doesn't know everything. So it's like being in the moment, and just allowing that information to come. Because we've got a lot of reprogramming to do. You know, based on our culture, based on our religions, we've got a lot to unpack, we've got a lot, but it's okay, because we got a lot of power too. So it's just to remind everyone, like, we don't have to have all the answers. Just be where you are and just keep moving forward.
Yes, sir.
One last thing, and this is a little practice. I don't do it every day, but I should, so I'm really talking to myself. We all are talking now about love, love's in the air, love the world, love the people, love. I haven't had a really good hug from anybody. I know in the last 2 years because it was COVID.
Right.
But even before that, I look at my family. That's not a relationship I have even with my mother. No, we aren't huggers, and she's not my friend, and that's not a bad thing. It's just what's real. So I would say, hug on you. You can give yourself a hug every day, and hold it. Hold it a long time if you need to. I see, even that feels good. I feel my heart. And you can sit right there. So when it feels like the world is against you, or mom doesn't understand, or I don't have anybody to go to, or I'm by myself. No, you're not. It's you and your little self. Hug your little self. That's all I got.
That's it?
Hug your little self.
That is a great thing, though.
It is.
That is a great thing, though. Anything else? We good? We feeling okay? All right.
Yes.
So as far as I got nothing. This is great. I wanna first, before we get to making sure that we are all in the same space we were when we got together, which Lauren Freeman is gonna help lead us out of this. I just want to make sure that I say thank you to each and every one of you for like offering your time, your energy, your opinions, for physically being in the space again. I know we haven't been able to do anything really in person in a while. And I'm just excited that we have continued to like advance the conversation, and I'm looking forward to seeing how we can continue to, move the conversation and continue to have the conversation moving forward. So like, thank you.
Thank you
Well,
for
thank
putting it
you.
together.
I just tell you, with a community, with a people.
It takes a village.
It takes a whole village.
Yes.
Lauren, okay, sitting here, looking amazing in white on the couch. Do you want to come and join us on the cam and lead us out and ground us again before we go about this lovely weekend?
Sure. My name is Lauren Freeman, pronoun she, her. I'm the operations assistant here at 12 Literary Arts. I'm also a clinical mental health counseling student, studying to be a licensed practicing counselor. My life's mission is to instill holistic wellness of the mind, body, and soul of people of color, particularly Black women and femmes. We've just witnessed a beautiful conversation with lovely people. I'm energized. But that isn't to say that these conversations aren't difficult to have. I'm sure this conversation can leave some heaviness in the heart. You're leaving here kind of reflecting on traumas or like, your growth as a human being as you go through life. So I'd like to just take some time to collectively ground ourselves back to baseline. The misconception of meditation is that your brain is supposed to be completely silent. Bring your attention back to our breath. Back to our body. And let's reflect on how we have felt through this whole very necessary conversation. How we felt at the beginning. And how we maybe you notice you feel differently. Maybe you don't. That's okay. Because we're human.
Remember everyone at 12, and I'm sure on behalf of Willow Virgos, much love, peace, enjoy your weekend, get outside, drink some water.
Drink some water.
Drink some water.
Drink, yes.
And bye everybody.
Peace. You heard out there.
Alrighty.
This one is